So the first thing that we need to do is recognize that there are some factors that are just beyond our control, and some things that we can't change. We can't change the fact that a witness feels it is their duty to pick someone up from a lineup. They often feel like, I have to come here, I need to pick someone, because if I don't pick someone, the guy's going to be out on the street and it's not going to be safe. So it's my duty as a good citizen to pick somebody from the lineup, so he will answer for the crime and we won't have to worry about it anymore. The other thing that we can't deal with is the challenges with memory. The ability to fully process it, to encode it in your memory, and then retrieve it later. There's a lot of things that can go on along the way that can affect your memory. They are easily contaminable. They're subject to suggestions, as we saw in some of the other cases in the studies. And often when people are giving verbal descriptions, they can be vague or inadequate. I mean, people, I know when we hear in Canada that they're looking for a suspect, it's always a male who's about 5'10", 6 feet, he's about 180 to 220 pounds, he's got short dark hair, and he's wearing a blue coat. I mean, that seems to be what we hear all the time. I don't know if you have a similar type of descriptions that you hear here, but it seems like people are very vague. So some other factors that we can't control is the stress factor. The higher the stressful situation, the lower the ID accuracy. And this goes against the view that if you're in a serious situation or if you're in a stressful situation, you'll probably be more in tune with what's going on. But studies have shown actually the opposite. So this is a study. There were some military students. They underwent a 40-minute interrogation. Half of them in a very high-stress situation and half of them in a low-stress situation. The next day, they were given a photo lineup and they were asked to identify the interrogator from just the day before, the guy that had interrogated them. These are the results. Those that were in a high-stress situation, 68% false identification of the person that had interrogated them the day before. These are military survival students. Of the low stress, only a 12% false identification. They speak for themselves. Some other factors which are beyond our control that relate to the event are the length of the exposure to the events. How long did the person have to witness what was happening? Were there distracting elements? Was there a gun? And there's a concept, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, called the weapon focus effect. And the theory is that if there is a gun present, then the witness their visual is drawn to the gun. That they have less accuracy in identifying the face because they're more focusing on the weapon. I don't know if any of you have heard of that before or not. Studies have indicated that. Also, what about the conditions under which the identification was made? And I think it was this lady here this morning who said how when she was driving down the street at a traffic light, it depended the distance of how far she was away from the traffic light. And that was a perfect example of how that can affect your vision, how that can affect your perception. So things like that, the distance, were there any barriers? How was the lighting? How was a person's vision? Did they wear contacts? Did they wear glasses? Did they wear bifocals? Did they have some wine at lunch? Very good wines here, by the way. Another factor to keep in mind is cross-race impairment. Studies have shown that members of one race have a deficiency for identifying members of another race. So people can identify their own race better than another race. I guess it's what you're more comfortable with. You just don't have the perception, the capacity to do the same in another. Okay, it's going to get positive now. Up to this point, we've talked about all the negative things, but there are some good things that we can do. If we follow some proper procedures and guidelines, there is hope. We can make a difference, and hopefully the evidence will be more reliable. But the key is in the police and the prosecutors and the lawyers and the judges and everybody to be alert to what can make the evidence more reliable. Insist on appropriate procedures in the investigation stage, in the lineups, and in the mug books, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The judges need to be aware of the frailties in the system and what questions to ask, and how the wording by investigators, how that can affect the witness, how the feedback can affect the witness. And think of all the things that have happened along the way from the moment that the witness first ID'd the person to when they actually get in court. And how a lineup presentation or format or the instructions given at a lineup can influence the witness. So as a result of studies done by psychologists and police and lawyers and judges in Canada and the US, we've developed a number of guidelines. Not that we've been great at implementing them, but we're trying. And so I'm going to offer some of them to you and see if they may be of interest or if they may be helpful to you. So the first thing that we can do is at the investigative stage, make sure that the police officer uses open-ended questions, not using leading or suggestive questions. So when the witness is first contacted to come down to the police station to identify someone, I mean, they don't say, we got the guy, we just want you to come down and point him out. Say, you know, we have a suspect and we want you to come down and look at a number of people in the police lineup. The person may or may not be present. And avoid any feedback or suggestions once an identification is made. And then when, for example, when a person does select someone from a lineup, not to say, yes, that's him, you're right, you got the guy, he's the one. So, I'm not sure, do you use mug books here? They are a collection of photos of previous arrested people. Okay. So some of the guidelines that have been suggested with mug books is to ensure that no particular individual photo is suggested, that the witness has seen a number of different photos, that the photos are grouped by format and color, so the black and white ones are together, the digital ones are together, and no particular photo stands out. You don't have a group of black and white and then one color photo in the middle. And the police officers must keep track of which photos have been viewed, because often you will see one mug book, and there can be a person in here and see another mug book, and if he's a popular guy, he's probably in this book and in this book and this book. So when the witness goes from book to book, she sees this guy, but then she sees him here in that one, and he looks familiar, so... And then she sees him again, and then it's confirming that this is the guy, but is it familiar because it's the guy she saw at the crime, or is it the guy that she saw from the mug book the second before?